Alright, today we're going to be doing a pretty simple procedure, an oil change. On the 2000 Ford F-150 4.6 liter V8. So what we're going to need is our obvious stuff, oil filler. We're going to need the oil pan, oil filter. I need 6 quarts for this job here. The secret weapon being an oil filter cap for this particular job. I think I'm going to be needing this tooth pattern right here today. Ratchet and a 5/8 socket. So, oh yeah, don't forget to get yourself some paper towels and a bag to wrap up any of your oily mess with afterwards. So, before we start any of that, what we're going to do is run the engine for a little bit. And the reason we're doing that is because it's going to help loosen that up, that oil filter. Not only that, but it's going to make your oil come out a lot smoother as well. Just in the meantime, I'm sure you already know, but here's your engine oil dipstick, and here is your oil filler neck. Real quick, don't forget about your mileage, because you're going to want to change your oil every 3,000 to 6,000 miles, depending on what your preference is. I try to stick closer to the 3,000 mark. And get yourself some stickers, eBay, Amazon, whatever. Real cheap, get a whole roll of them. Put those in your window to do your oil changes. Make it a lot easier on yourself. Just make sure that you don't forget to keep track of your mileage before doing your oil changes. Alright, so now we got her warmed up about where we want her. Had to let it warm up a little longer because it is fairly cold out right now, but just want to warm it up to about there and shut her down. Now we got to let it sit for a little to let all that oil run down to the pan. So in the meantime, I'm going to write up my new sticker for the oil service, and then we won't forget to do that later. Okay, old sticker off, new sticker on. Just let it sit a little bit longer and we're going to get started. So let's position our oil filter underneath here. And we're going to get on our drain plug. Loosen that up. Once again with the 5/8, sorry, the 5/8 socket. And we're going to go ahead and loosen that up with our fingers. Keep your hand high above out of the way, and you might just avoid getting your hand covered in oil. Feel for it when it's on the last teeth there, which is right now. Okay, pull and try to avoid getting your hand entirely soaked in oil. But let's go ahead and put this on a paper towel. And then we're gonna go open up our cap. And that should make it pour out all that much quicker. Well, I like to let this thing drip for a good long time, so I will get back with you when that is practically not dripping anymore. Another thing you can do while you're waiting for that to drip dry is grab yourselves your paper towels and dry it off. There's nothing but stuff underneath your oil filter, so when you take that off, Ford was kind enough to add this plastic reservoir to run down. So once we take the oil filter off, what we're going to do is we're going to reposition our oil pan underneath this plastic reservoir to drain the rest of the oil out and into the pan. I'm trying to show you this from up here. There's not a lot of room, but that's the reservoir there. So it kind of goes into that little trough, runs into there, and then down into your pan when you move it there. Alright, so the drip has slowed down enough for my liking. Not really, but it will keep going for a while. So we're gonna put our oil plug back in. And take a paper towel, kind of dry up the area there. And then get the tightening. Now these bottom out, so just give it a little snug. You know, don't gotta break your wrists or anything on this, just snug it up. That way it's not falling out and seizing your engine on the road or anything, but also not gonna make it so that you cannot get it off next time. Now we're gonna move the oil pan just so, and it's gonna be right underneath our little reservoir here. Maybe a little bit closer this way. That looks about right. Yeah. Okay, now let me get the ratchet put on with that oil filter cap and try to get a nice angle to show you how to get that off. Okay, so this is kind of the best angle I can get you, but it's plugged on there on the cap, and then you're just gonna twist her on off with your ratchet. And warming it up earlier probably made it all that much easier. But we're just gonna take that off of there. Reach your hand back up in. Start twisting her loose. And there it's pouring into that reservoir. Right from there. Tip it upward right away. There's some more coming out. There she is. And I'm just trying to empty a little bit of that into there. So there's the oil filter off. Now we got our new oil filter out of the box. And I'm gonna do what probably most of you do and take some of this oil here and put it around that gasket to prevent you from seizing that on there. And I also put a little bit in the threads.
Now typically, I know people will kind of prime their filters by pouring some of the new oil in there, trying to put it on, but because this one's sideways, and as you can see, it's already a pain to get in there. I just don't see that working very well for me. So, I'm not going to attempt it. But I can at least do the other method. I'll just kind of run the engine a little bit. Obviously not just pull off right away and not let prime that oil filter in. But we're getting this new oil in here now.
Now my hands are rather oiled up as is, so That's kind of my way of preventing me from wrenching this thing on too tight. But that should be good there. About. So now we got the drain plug on. We got our filter snugged on there. And now it's time to fill her up. All right, now on to the easy part. I'm gonna put our oil in. Now before getting to the last quart, what I will do is run the engine for a few seconds just to kind of get that oil primed into the oil filter and all that good stuff, and then let it sit for a little bit more, check the dipstick, and then probably add the last full quart. Alright, we're going to put that cap back on there and run the engine for a little bit. Okay, so let's take the funnel out quick. Put our cap on. And then let's run this for a little bit. Like I said, we're going to try and prime that oil filter full of oil. Get that oil circulating through, and then we'll let it sit, get a reading on the dipstick, and probably add the full last quart, and then oil change will be all done. Also, now's a good time to look underneath, make sure you don't got any trips going on. Just about a minute, just to run that for. And now, by the way, just really quick, but now that we ran it again, we got to let the oil run back down. So before we check that dipstick, now's a good time to drain all that old used up oil into our freshly emptied 5 quart. And you can take these down to your local AutoZone and dispose of them. I am gonna cut the recording to do the long, painstaking process of draining that into there without making a mess. All right. Now, after about the time it presumably takes to walk about a light year of draining that oil into the container, this should have had plenty of time to sit. So I'm going to dry this off quick.
Get it back in there and check our level. And that definitely is going to need that quart. Yeah, I'm going to check on the time.
Yeah, it's certainly going to need that extra quart to top that off. So let's go do that. Then we're gonna button this up, check our drain plug, our oil filter, make for certain that we put on our oil filter cap, or sorry, not filter cap, our oil filler cap. And we're gonna let it sit for a little longer, let all that oil drain down to the bottom of the pan. And to do that, I'm just gonna start cleaning up my tools and stuff, and then we'll give it one last oil reading and take her on a drive.
Okay, back over to the dipstick. Just gonna get the first wipe off, and then we're gonna check and see if we're good.
Much better. Now we're gonna start her up again. Get that oil running through there. Take her on a little spin, and then if you're like me, you can check it one more time after the drive. But besides that, that is your oil change on a 2000 Ford F-150 4.6 liter V8.